is Lotus's involvement in terms of funding for this project, and how long is it
it's
going to exist?
it's a 7-year sponsoring agreement with the team. And as would be the case with any sponsorship agreement, we wouldn't disclose the number.
Okay.
It's a seven-year program essentially for Lotus. That is, on one hand, a sponsoring agreement, on the other hand, a technical collaboration agreement, and then the last point, which is not spoken about in newspapers at all, is the fact that the team is owned by Genie Capital, which we own, and we, on the other hand, have again an agreement with Proton in working with them hand in hand, develop a number of things with them, including opening certain geographies for them in terms of the platform, like Russia, for instance. So it's not a one variable equation, let's put it that way.
So when you say the team is owned by Genie Capital, in terms of shareholding structure, what's the breakdown?
It's in terms of shareholder structure today, it's Genie Capital with Lotus owning an option, having an option to buy into the team in different tranches. And that option is actually the equivalent of a shareholdership because they can transform it.
Okay. What's the current structure now?
Genie Capital.
100%?
Genie Capital 100%, with Lotus having the option to take over 50% at some point in time.
And the option is for how long?
It's for, I believe, 2 years or so.
Okay, what about it?
I believe 2 years.
2 years.
How much did Genie Capital invested for the stake?
To buy the company?
Yeah.
I don't disclose that.
Could you give us a bit of background for Genie Capital? What do you do?
Sure. So we have a number of investment companies that we're involved in. One is a company called Mango Capital Partners, which I spent most of my time in, which is one of the leading technology investment companies worldwide. We used to be the first owner and equity owner of Skype, the internet phone service. We used to be the first investment company we just sold to eBay, which is called Brands for Friends in Germany. And we have about 25, almost 30 investments in that company. Then there's a second company, which is Equivalence, which is a holding group in the real estate sector, one of the largest ones in Europe. And then there's Genie Capital. Genie Capital essentially acts as an investment vehicle for ourselves, as a corporate finance house, and structured finance for very large deals for large corporations in different areas, from technology over to even engineering companies and so on. So it's essentially run like a bank, with the big difference that it doesn't have any external shareholders, and with the other big difference that it has activities like this one, where we get very involved in management and so on and so forth. And Formula One is essentially an embassy for our businesses, be it the Genie Capital businesses, be it the Mango Capital businesses, be it the Lotus businesses. It's essentially a platform that we use beyond the sporting aspirations, a platform that we use to travel to 19 or 20 countries per year and meet deciders locally in those countries.
When did you buy into F1?
About a little bit over a year ago, a year and 2 months.
So besides F1, are you involved in any other sporting activities?
Not to the level of F1. We have a foundation that helps out with children playing soccer. We have a soccer club that is not big. Yeah, in sports, this is our main.
So your focus is now Formula One?
Purely in sports.
In sports.
But Formula One, to give you an idea, is one out of, I think, 34 companies in Genie. And it goes from we have a company in solar energy, we have a company in brake manufacturing, we have a company in engine manufacturing, we have a company in a museum, we have a company in real estate, we have a company in clean tech, funding clean tech, financial services like a bank, so it's much broader. This Formula One, the factory, what you see here, is one company out of many companies in different areas that we have at Genie Capital.
basically your private equity fund.
A private equity fund would be what Mangrove is. That is, you invest other people's money. Genie Capital is all we own Genie Capital 100%. There's no outside investors.
And how many people own Genie Capital? Yourself, right?
Eric Lux, who's here.
And it's based in UK, you know,
Based in Luxembourg.
Luxembourg.
Will you plan to dispose all of your stakes in Lotus
Are we planning to dispose of it?
Yeah. No, are you planning?
No. It's unlike a normal investment. This is not one we would expect to sell because we want to make a profit. This is one that is inherent to a certain strategy that we have for some of our companies to use it for their promotion and so on. So for us, it's important to own it. If we were to talk about making money, we probably will make more money over the long term using it as a platform to invite people, meet people, and do deals than we would make just by buying and selling. So that's why we're happy to have Lotus on board, which is eventually, you know, we'll be in a situation where we both, you know, work with this platform for the next 10, 15, 20 years. I don't know, but there's certainly, from our side, there's certainly long-term intent on this whole.
So you are preferred to be a major controller of the company.
Yeah, there's, you know, the things that we do, there's only two ways for us to do it. Completely and not at all, right? So, you know, if we decided to do this with Lotus, it's because we know the people well, we know the people at Proton, and we feel comfortable that we can share the responsibilities, the management, and so on going forward. If it was a question of who's in charge and who's not, we would not have accepted any deal with Lotus. It's really, I mean, you know, it's a good partnership, but what a lot of people have forgotten, because Formula One has this tendency of overshadowing everything else. It's a partnership that goes way beyond Formula One. I mean, you know, we're partners with Lotus now looking at brake systems, engine systems. With Proton looking at new ways to lease cars, finance cars. With Proton looking at the Russian market. With Renault Nissan looking at electric cars. So, I mean, it's Formula One just happens to be one portion of a relationship that is much wider. And certainly not the most, I know there was a question about finances, but you know, it's certainly a small piece in that big picture in terms of overall discussions.
How that you going to have Proton to venture to the Russian market? What kind of a planning that you
So,
plan?
it's obviously, I won't disclose what is being discussed in detail, but let's put it this way. There's the Russian markets, there's other markets where Proton could be provider of platforms for sensitively priced car to existing brands in those countries. And so that's one of the things that is being looked at. And we have excellent relationships in Russia which enable us to have that kind of discussion in that country.
So you're basically looking at the Russian market for a time being?
Yeah, and other markets where we would have relationships, but the Russian market is a market of, you know, 160 million plus people, you know, who are in a situation where a lot of them are buying their first new car now. So there's a lot of organic growth, unlike other markets, like the UK, for instance, where people already have 2 or 3 cars and are certainly not buying their first car. So it's a market that everybody wants to go in, but it's a market that requires affordable cars. And obviously, you know, Proton has I think, a good product mix to be able to come to that market.
Do you have any investments in Russia?
Yes, we do.
So you're going to use that as a platform to promote Proton as well?
Yeah, we have more than investments in Russia. We have excellent relationships up to top level government, to the Prime Minister, and so on and so forth. So I think what we're doing is that, you know, we're providing a good business opportunity for everybody. So it's about using relationships in the sense that makes sense for everybody. And so we deal with it that it makes sense.
So when do you expect that Proton venture in the
I think we're going to start serious discussions, or they will start serious discussions with us in that market sometime in spring this year. These things take time, so I believe that certainly you wouldn't be seeing a Proton manufactured car in Russia in 2011, but then from then on, we don't know. We'll see. I mean, we're really dipping the toe into the water now, but we think there's something there. So.
And you strongly believe that the tie with Proton will make it?
Strongly believe that the tie?
The tie with Proton?
In terms of the Russian market, you mean?
Overall.
Overall, no. Again, let's not be mistaken here. We decided to go for a relationship with Lotus because we have interests outside of Formula One. If we had wanted to have a relationship with a pure sponsor just based on cash, you know, there's other companies out there we could have sold the name to. Okay, for us, we love racing, but we also have a lot of companies and businesses that we need to have a relationship with. I think we're, for instance, excited to tie up with Malaysia. So we are going to be going to Malaysia and looking at what business opportunities. I mean, at the end of the day, we are ranked every month, I believe, as one of the top 10 technology investment companies worldwide. We understand that Malaysia, as a government, has on its agenda to try to position Malaysia as a technology hotbed. So for sure, you know, now that we have this relationship, we're going to move it one step further, which is, you know, try to tie up with the government, go and see what it is that we can do. So it's for us to look at this purely as, you know, let's call the team Lotus for Formula One, would have been a mistake. So we, you know, that's why it took quite a bit of time to discuss. It was not the Formula One aspect that took time to discuss. What took time to discuss is what else can we do together, and how do we do it. And that's when we ended up having a program that was more complete. And but I can't hide the fact that I'm excited to. I'm sure as journalists, you guys probably Google, but you know, there's an article at some point in time, or an interview that I gave about 10 years ago, when I was asked what I bought with my first pocket money. And you can Google it. It's there since 2001 or 2000. And the first thing I ever bought with my pocket money was a Lotus black and gold from a white car. So for me, it's a nice tie back into a child's dreams.
Before you get in partner with Group Lotus, how far is your knowledge about Proton and Group Lotus?
It's quite considerable. I've known. We've had a consulting company in the UK that used to work with Group Lotus already 5 or 6 years ago. Always kind of knew what was going on. We have people that are close to us who were very close to Proton, who were there actually at the creation of Proton. So we've been able to follow the history of Proton quite a bit. And in the case of Lotus, I think I could be quizzed on pretty much any car, any engine, anything like that. I probably would have to be able to have an answer. So yeah, quite knowledgeable.
Any plans for you to go into Lotus? Because currently they are looking for equity injection and as well as.
Yeah, I think they have a good shareholder with Proton. For sure, that is something also that we would be looking at, right? That it's not. I don't think there's an urge at this stage, but yeah, for sure we're talking to Proton and Lotus on how to work together. And if at some point in time there was an opportunity to work together beyond just partnerships, but also on the equity side, why not?
But you will not rule out the possibility right now?
Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out. I never rule anything out.
What is your comments on the trademark dispute between Lotus Racing and?
I'm a pretty pragmatic person, and for me it's quite simple. Is that Mr. Chapman, who founded Lotus, is no longer on this. He has a son, Clive Chapman, and all I can say is that there is no way we could say that we are a Formula One team that used to belong to Mr. Chapman. And with all due respect to Tony and his team, there is no way they can say the same thing. I mean, none of us can say that. I am not Mr. Chapman's son, neither is Mr. Bouillet, and neither is Tony Bahar. And Tony Fernandez is, as far as I know, also not Mr. Chapman's son or family related. So I don't think any of us can say that we have any link to the heritage of that. The only difference is, and that's why I have a very, very pragmatic approach to this, the only difference is that Lotus, Group Lotus, has decided to promote itself in Formula One and has absolutely every right to do so. They are called Lotus, they make Lotus cars, and that's it. It's a car manufacturer, so we're not saying, oh, we're a continuity of Mr. Chapman's team. All we're saying is that Group Lotus is a partner of ours, wanting to promote their car brand in Formula 1. What Mr. Fernandez is saying, as far as what I can read from the press, is that they are the spiritual successor to Team Lotus. And honestly, I do have to laugh, but honestly, it doesn't make sense. I know that they would lose money if they change their name. And so I understand the struggle that they have to give up on this. And being pragmatic, if I was in this position, would I do the same thing? I have no idea. But for sure, they stand to lose money but that doesn't make it legit to say that they are Team Lotus, because we're not and they're not. We are Lotus Renault GP, which represents, among other things, Lotus Car Company selling Lotus road cars. And that's it, end of story. Malaysia One Racing is not Lotus Car Company, but it's also not Lotus of Mr. Chapman. And that's why the Chapman family made a statement not that long ago. Because they were actually supportive of what they were doing up until a certain time, and they became unsupportive when things got screwed, and they decided to go from Lotus Racing to Team Lotus, essentially becoming what they never were, which is the extension of Mr. Chapman's family and heritage and so on. And I think the family didn't take that too well. So we have a very clear opinion, which has absolutely nothing to do with the position of the court, but it's just to do with the pragmatic approach on what this team does. And this team represents Group Lotus, a car manufacturer, wanting to promote itself in Formula 1. And that's it, end of story. There's no link from our side to the past in terms of Formula 1 racing.
So it doesn't matter what the court decides, as far as you're concerned?
I think it matters more to the other party. And you know, it's pretty sad when you have a brand like Lotus, and when you even have to go to court to decide who's Lotus, when at the end of the day you only have one Lotus company worldwide, and that's the one that is owned by Proton. That's what I find sort of odd, such as the system.
Is there any way this can be resolved before it goes?
I don't know, because it's unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, we're not linked to the issue, right? We don't own Lotus, we're not Proton, and we're not Mr. Fernandez, so I think it's at that level that needs to be resolved. I think I would say that from our side, and certainly from the side of Proton and Lotus, everything has been done to not publicly take this. I mean, even in what I said now, I don't think we would ever be able to say that I've criticized their team or what they did or whatever. I think it's been the exact opposite on the other side. So I don't know if too many bridges have been burned, but I know, for instance, that there was an interest of Proton to actually try to resolve it before Mr. Fernandez and so on started saying certain things to the press. I don't know what the wish is now, but hopefully it will get done. If not, I don't think there will be any mistake on who is who when you look at the qualifying results.
But you're okay with there being two Lotus teams?
I'm okay because I have no choice. If you were to ask me if I had a choice, I would be okay. No, I'm not okay. I think it's a dilution of the brand. I think it's bad for the brand. And as I said, because I'm very pragmatic, I don't need to be a lawyer to explain why there's only one Lotus. So to me, there's only one Lotus, and that's it, end of story. Everything else is just a discussion on a name to avoid losing money if they have to change it. So yeah, no, I'm not okay with it. You know, at the end of the day, I'm not deciding, so I will be okay if there's no change.
Do you look at this as positive publicity instead of negative publicity? You have 4 Lotus teams on the
For
grid.
Lotus cars?
Lotus cars, yes.
You know, some people might say that. I don't know. I don't look at it that way because I don't think it's necessarily bad. I don't think it's horrible. For sure, if Lotus is a car brand, it's not that bad. But I do have to say that if Lotus decided to leave that team, among other things, it was also lack of results. I don't think it does Lotus as a car brand any good if they want to compete with Ferrari. If their cars qualify 19 or 18, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, only hardcore fans care about a car that is running 18th. You know, and I've loved Formula 1 for a long time. I've known Mr. Eccleston for a long time. I've been going to Formula 1 for a long time. You know, I would ask you, if you're not a hardcore fan of a team that is not competing at the top, to tell me who finished 10th of a race or 12th. Nobody knows because nobody cares. So either you're at the top or people don't talk about you. And so if it's If the relationship that Lotus has with us is one about promoting their car brand, I think their decision was right, which is not to be in Formula 1 at all, or to be in Formula 1 but be able to race at the top. And so I don't think it's necessarily a horrible thing to have 4 cars called Lotus, but I don't think it's a good thing either, because it doesn't do, it's neutral at best, but it for sure doesn't do anything for the brand in terms of promoting it. And that's one of the reasons I believe that Proton and Lotus decided to terminate the agreement. It's because it was probably not fulfilling in terms of sporting results. And again, I say that knowing how difficult it is to build a team from scratch, and knowing that they didn't do a bad job as a new team, right? But if you've been able to visit their factory or their complex and this, I don't know if you can imagine the time it would take to build something like this and the amount of money. There is about 20 years invested in creating this, with every year, as I said, loads of money to invest in the factory. You just don't come from nothing and build something like this. So I respect, and so does the rest of the team, what they've done in building it. But if Lotus wanted to be at the top, there is no way they could have tied up and kept with that team, because it would have taken ages, and they would probably never have been able to catch up, because it's an unfortunate circumstance, which is that if you're at the top, you get more sponsoring money, more TV money, and so on, so you can invest more. So how do you ever catch up? Is it, you're always playing catch up with so.
That brings me to my last question. How confident are you that Lotus team will do well this year?
I was absolutely right in everything I predicted last year, which was fun, but I predicted I would do a couple of podiums, probably finish 5th in the championship, which we did. So I predict that we will be winning races this year. So I'm very confident.
Talking about Team Lotus Renault.
This one.
This one.
The only one.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you very much. Okay?